So this is your thinking. This is thoughts. If your thoughts are operating in a neat and orderly and systematic fashion, if your thoughts are moving in straight lines between place to place with a certain purpose, then you're a very capable person. If, on the other hand, you let your thoughts just go crazy, then you're never going to get anything done, right? You probably know some people, like hyperactive kids, who get interested in this, and then they get interested in that, and then the next second they're doing an email, and then Facebook, and then Google, and then they're talking to a friend, and then they're listening to class, and then if this is the way that you're acting, you're never going to get anything done. So it's very important to look after your thoughts and your thinking, and not to let your thoughts and your thinking get scattered and go running around everywhere. Because in this book they gave a nice example of this, and they had students go in to earn money by clicking on the mouse, and they had a green door, a red door, and a white door. And through each door, they could go through each door and click inside the room. Every time they click, they get money. 5 cents, 3.5 cents, 2 cents, 4.5 cents. But they're not told how much money they get in each room. But every time that they change rooms, they lose a click. So if they go into a blue room and they start clicking, okay, but they want to switch to the red room, they lose a click because they have to click on the red room. So they lose the chance to earn money. And the test is to see whether they choose a room and stick with it, which is the way to earn the most money. So usually the students would click a few times in each room, see which one seems to offer the most money, stay in that room and just click 100 clicks and they collect the money. Then they changed the experiment and they made each door, every time you click in one room, the other 2 doors would start to disappear. And if you click 12 times without clicking on a door, it's disappeared forever. And what started to happen was the students would go crazy because they wanted to keep all 3 options open, even though that they were better doing a short test to see which room gave the most money and staying there. Every time they'd see the door start to disappear, like just before it disappears, they jump over and they click it. And so what they found was the students jumping from this door to this door to that door to that door, they earned a lot less money than the people who just clicked one single door. So this is the same with the thinking. If the thinking runs around and it jumps from project to project to project and to jump to this and to that, you're never going to get anything done. If you look after your thoughts and you keep them on the straight and narrow, then they operate correctly, they operate properly. Incidentally, this motif occurs in many, many fairy tales, and like the Chinese tale, The Journey to the West, Monkey, the monkey god, very much like Hanuman, but he goes up to the heavenly realm, and he's the equal of heaven. And in the heavenly realm, they think this, because he's the equal of the whole of heaven, actually he symbolizes emptiness. So they decide to give him a job to do. And they give him the job of mucking out the stables. And so for a while he enjoys this, and then somebody comes and says to him, "You're only mucking out the stables. What a lowly, terrible job it is for you." So then he lets all the horses go and he goes back and he fights with heaven. This is the same motif. Horses also represent the idea of channeling your efforts or your energy. And by mucking out the stables, this was the idea of looking after your thoughts, keeping your thoughts channeled. So it occurs in many, many stories and tales in different formats. Moving on then quickly to the ducks. The 2 ducks represent, any guesses? What did they want to do with the ducks? Eat them. So the ducks represent, well, what do you feel about food? Yeah, hunger, you want it. So the ducks are representing your desires. And nearly always, especially in the Old Testament, you see a lot of stories about animals. And the stories about animals are always stories about desire. So, for example, the Israelites were in the desert and they were rained the manna, the heavenly bread that could keep them alive and perfectly healthy. But they started to desire the flesh of animals. This means that you have an inner joy. Everything that you need is inside. But you start to desire things outside of yourself. And this is what leads you into trouble. So in this story, it's two ducks. They wanted to eat the ducks. This is desire. If you keep your desires in check, right, later on this will pay dividends. Same with the thoughts. You don't get immediate dividends. Keeping your thoughts in line, later on it works for you. Keeping your desires in check. Don't get into rampant materialism and desiring, and I want this, and I want that. And I was just reading about this counselor in the US, and she was counseling a girl who had an old boyfriend that she was kind of sick of and tired of, but he was quite good, and she couldn't decide between him and this new boyfriend that she was in. And the counselor was asking how should she advise. So, keep your desires in check. If your desires are running around here and there and you want too many things in too many ways, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Jerry Seinfeld, you know him? Everyone know Jerry Seinfeld from the TV program? He liked sports cars, and when the Seinfeld program first started to take off, he started to get some money, because before that he was quite poor. And so the first thing he did is he bought himself a sports car, a Porsche, and he got this big buzz. Finally got myself my sports car. Nothing wrong with sports cars. He's got the money. He's earned it in a good way. He's a good guy. We're not saying that he's a bad person anyway. But when he got to his 30th Porsche, then you've got to start asking questions, right? By the time he got to his 40th, he was building his house, and he dug this huge hole in the ground as a garage to store his cars. And so he applied for permission. He got permission to dig this enormous hole to store his cars in his underground garage. Because you can't put them up. Somebody might scratch them or steal them or damage them. You've got rain, you've got sun. You've got to keep them in a humidity-controlled, temperature-controlled underground storage network. By the time he was actually building this garage, he was up to 96. And so he had to build a bigger garage, so he just dug the hole like bigger and bigger. And then the council caught him, or the planning commission caught him, and they said, you don't have permission for this hole, you have to fill it in. So then he had to buy like tons and tons and tons and tons of earth to come and fill in this enormous hole that he built. Meanwhile, storing these cars in a storage house somewhere else, out of town. Before it started to occur to him, maybe I don't need 96 sports cars. Now he's down to about like 15. Modest guy. He learned, spiritual guy. He learned his lessons. So holding your desires in check, even though you can't see the immediate cause or result of that, is a worthwhile spiritual practice. Bees signify the idea. What about in India? Are bees like a holy creature, unholy, useful? Hardworking, like that ants. I don't know, in India, in the West, actually, bees are always considered the most spiritual of all the animals. And I think part of the reason is a bee is something that seems quite small, but is quite, in the tails, is always quite significant. And I think spiritual values are like that. Compared to worldly values or worldly, success, spiritual values can seem kind of like not too important. Now, a spiritual value, let's say kindness, you you can insert any spiritual value here, just kindness from the top of my head. It's a double-edged sword, because if you practice kindness, it will make you very happy. But if you have the ideal of kindness and you don't follow it, it's going to make you unhappy. It's going to show you how unkind you are. It's going to show you all the time, if you have that ideal, it's going to show you to yourself all the times that you're unkind. Right?